Chapter 13 of the Danger Trail. This LibriVox is in the public domain. Recording by Roger Moline. The Danger Trail by James Oliver Curwood. Chapter 13. The Pursuit. Behind the sledge ran Howland, to the right of the team ran Jean. Once or twice when Croisset glanced back, his eyes met those of the engineer. He cracked his whip and smiled, and Howland's teeth gleamed back coldly in reply. A mutual understanding flashed between them in these glances. In a sudden spurt Howland knew that the Frenchman could quickly put distance between them, but not a distance that his bullets could not cover in the space of a breath. He had made up his mind to fire, deliberately and with his greatest skill, if Croisset made the slightest movement toward escape. If he was compelled to kill or wound his companion, he could still go on alone with the dogs, for the trail of Mélisse and Jackpine would be as plain as their own, which they were following back into the south. For the second time since coming into the north he felt the blood leaping through his veins as on that first night in Prince Albert, when from the mountain he had heard the lone wolf, and when later he had seen the beautiful face through the hotel window. Howland was one of the few men who possess unbounded confidence in themselves, who place a certain pride in their physical as well as their mental capabilities, and he was confident now. His successful and indomitable fight over obstacles in a big city had made this confidence a genuine part of his being. It was a confidence that flushed his face with joyous enthusiasm as he ran after the dogs, and that astonished and puzzled Jean Croisset. "Mon Dieu, but you are a strange man!" exclaimed the Frenchman when he brought the dogs down to a walk after a half-mile run. "Blessed saints, monsieur, you are laughing, and I swear it is no laughing matter." "Shouldn't a man be happy when he is going to his wedding, Jean?" puffed Howland, gasping to get back the breath he had lost. "But not when he is going to his funeral, monsieur." "If I were one of your blessed saints, I'd hit you over the head with a thunderbolt, Croisset. Good Lord, what sort of a heart have you got inside of your jacket, man? Up there where we're going is the sweetest little girl in the whole world. I love her. She loves me. Why shouldn't I be happy, now that I know I'm going to see her again very soon, and take her back into the South with me?" "The devil!" grunted Jean. "Perhaps you're jealous, Croisset," suggested Howland. "Great Scott, I hadn't thought of that." "I've got one of my own to love, monsieur, and I wouldn't trade her for all else in the world." "Damned if I can understand you," swore the engineer. "You appear to be half human. You say you're in love, and yet you'd rather risk your life than help out Mélisse and me. What the deuce does it mean?" "That's what I'm doing, monsieur, helping Mélisse. I would have done her a greater service if I had killed you back there on the trail and stripped your body for those things that would be foul enough to eat it. I have told you a dozen times that it is God's justice that you die. And you are going to die very soon, monsieur." "No, I'm not going to die, Jean. I'm going to see Mélisse, and she's going back into the South with me. And if you're real good you may have the pleasure of driving us back to the Wekusko, Croisset, and you can be my best man at the wedding. What do you say to that?" "That you are mad or a fool," retorted Jean, cracking his whip viciously. The dogs swung sharply from the trail, heading from their southerly course into the northwest. "We will save a day by doing this," explained Croisset at the other's sharp word of inquiry. "We will hit the other trail 20 miles west of here, while by following back to where they turned we would travel 60 miles to reach the same point. That one chance in 100 which you have depends on this, M'sieur. If the other sledge has passed—" He shrugged his shoulders and started the dogs into a trot. "Look here," cried Howland, running beside him. "Who is with this other sledge?" "Those who tried to kill you on the trail and at the coyote, M'sieur," he answered quickly. Howland fell half a dozen paces behind. By the end of the first hour he was compelled to rest frequently by taking to the sledge, and their progress was much slower. Jean no longer made answer to his occasional questions. Doggedly he swung on ahead to the right and a little behind the team leader, and Howland could see that for some reason Croisset was as anxious as himself to make the best time possible. His own impatience increased as the morning lengthened. Jean's assurance that the mysterious enemies who had twice attempted his life were only a short distance behind them or a short distance ahead set a new and desperate idea at work in his brain. He was confident that these men from the Wekusko were his chief menace, and that with them once out of the way, and with the Frenchmen in his power, the fight which he was carrying into the enemy's country would be half won. There would be then no one to recognize him but Mélisse. His heart leaped with joyous hope, and he leaned forward on the sledge to examine Croisset's empty gun. It was an automatic, and Croisset, glancing back over the loping backs of the huskies, caught him smiling. He ran more frequently now, and longer distances, and with the passing of each mile his determination to strike a decisive blow increased. If they reached the trail of Mélisse and Jackpine before the crossing of the second sledge, he would lay in wait for his old enemies. If they had preceded them, he would pursue and surprise them in camp. In either case he would possess an overwhelming advantage. With the same calculating attention to detail that he would have shown in the arrangement of plans for the building of a tunnel or a bridge, he drew a mental map of his scheme and its possibilities. There would be at least 2 men with the sledge, and possibly 3. If they surrendered at the point of his rifle without a fight, he would compel Jean to tie them up with dog traces while he held them under cover. If they made a move to offer resistance he would shoot. With the automatic he could kill or wound the 3 before they could reach their rifles, which would undoubtedly be on the sledge. The situation had now reached a point where he no longer took into consideration what these men might be to Mélisse. As they continued into the northwest, Howland noted that the thicker forest was gradually clearing into wide areas of small banskian pine, and that the rock ridges and dense swamps which had impeded their progress were becoming less numerous. An hour before noon, after a tedious climb to the top of a frozen ridge, Croisset pointed down into a vast level plain lying between them and other great ridges far to the north. "That is a bit of the Barren Lands that creeps down between those mountains off there, M'sieur," he said. "Do you see that black forest that looks like a charred log in the snow to the south and west of the mountains? That is the break that leads into the country of the Athabasca. Somewhere between this point and that we will strike the trail. Mon Dieu, I had half expected to see them out there on the plain." "Who? Mélisse and Jackpine, or—" "No, the others, M'sieur. Shall we have dinner here?" "Not until we hit the trail," replied Howland. "I'm anxious to know about that one chance in 100 you've given me hope of, Croisset. If they have passed—" "If they are ahead of us you might just as well stand out there and let me put a bullet through you, M'sieur." He went to the head of the dogs, guiding them down the rough side of the ridge, while Howland steadied the toboggan from behind. For 3/4 of an hour they traversed the low bush of the plain in silence. From every rising snow hummock Jean scanned the white desolation about them, and each time, as nothing that was human came within his vision,